Hey, welcome to the Malm podcast. We're back. I'm Joël here with Dad.
And I'm Rick. And this year we're talking about mountains we have to climb. And so which mountain are we looking at now, Joël?
Well, for May, we thought we'd talk about parenting. And if you've ever had a kid, you know that parenting a kid, it's a long haul, man.
It's a big mountain to climb.
Yeah, we were thinking about that yesterday. Emily and I were just kind of exhausted in dealing with Elise because she's pretty much full on all the time. She's a combination of me and her. And so she's got my full onness and Emily's love of fun.
Excitement.
Yeah. So, we're just like, just go to bed. And we finally get her to bed and we pray with her. And then we walk out and we look back in and she's sleeping, resting. We're like, oh, we love that kid. But like 10 minutes early, we're like, ah.
Yeah, they're a challenge.
Yeah.
Somebody said, once you have kids, you understand why some animals eat their young.
Yes. So I wanted to talk, we've been covering a lot of subjects about it, but I wanted to talk about something that you used to always say this. You say, let your default answer be yes, unless there's a really good answer for no. Uh-huh. Like some parents, their default answer is no, which is hard for me because like with our daughter, she's constantly asking for more. And if I said yes to her all the time, we would be at SeaWorld every day eating Chick-fil-A, while she's online watching Dude Perfect, buying Dude Perfect merch, and also like that, like it would be just everything all the time, all at once. But the issue I realized when I was growing up was you were always more concerned about not necessarily what was going on, what I was trying to do, but what was going on in my heart. So in terms of punishment, a lot of people thought you were really lenient with me. A lot of people are like, your dad doesn't punish you for anything. I'm like, no, he comes down pretty intense on certain things. But there was one thing that really, pride and rebellion, those two things, you just came at me. And we talked in the previous episode about rebellion, that weird verse that says rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. And so we won't go into that here. If you haven't heard that, go to that previous episode where we talk about, can you be friends with your kid? But I want to talk specifically about this parenting to the heart.
Yeah.
So many times we get caught up, it's going to sound super ethereal, but we get caught up in the form rather than the essence, right? You have to move past the form to the essence, right? So the essence is what's driving the form, the action.
Okay.
And I mean, that's...
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. But that's a lot of what Jesus got onto. He's like, you guys are so worried about straining out the gnat and the rules, but really what's the heart behind the rules? What's the heart of what's going on? Because if you understand the heart, you'll understand why we're doing that. And sometimes there's a time that you might need to bend the rule a little bit, right? Uh-huh. So you did a good job with that. Did you do it instinctively or were you actually like intentionally doing that?
I think I was intentionally doing it because I guess I realized early on that Samuel said to David, when he was picking David, he said, man looks at the outward appearance. God looks at the heart. And it just dawned on me that if God looks at the heart, shouldn't I be looking at the heart? Now, I don't have X-ray vision. I can't see as well as he can into the heart. But I realized that the heart is a whole lot more important than the outward appearance.
Right.
Make sense?
Which also makes sense why you got so much onto me about stuff I said, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
It reveals what's in there.
I would always be in trouble in the principal's office. You'd come in and be like, I'd be like, I didn't do anything. And then the principal would be like, it's not what you did. It's what you said. It's like, yeah, but I didn't do anything. Yeah, but you said it.
Well, there were times you did something too, I remember.
Like once. You keep bringing up the time that I threw a pen at somebody, but whatever.
Paperclip.
Generally, whatever. I was an angel.
Let it go.
I was an angel with a sharp tongue.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know that angels have sharp tongues, But anyhow, we're going to move on beyond that, all right? Let's move beyond that.
So was I a demon, a fallen angel? I don't know. Anyway.
You were just a kid.
That's what it is, yeah.
That's it. You're just a kid. And that's the thing. We need to expect our kids to make mistakes. And that's the other reason I don't get all bent out of shape if they're breaking rules, because they're just dumb kids and you forget. So many parents don't remember. Do you remember what you were like when you were that age? Do you remember the dumb things you did? You managed to survive. I don't know how I did. I can think of a lot of times when I should have gotten in all kinds of trouble, but I managed to escape it, or I managed to survive, or gotten myself killed. And so just remember what you were like then. And that doesn't mean there are no consequences for the misbehavior, but you don't have to get all bent out of shape and what's wrong with you? Well, they're your child, That's what's wrong with them.
Is it nature or nurture? It's both your fault.
Either way, it's dad and mom's fault. So you don't have to get all bent out of shape. And so I felt like God puts the priority on what's in the heart. And so if he looked beyond the outward appearance and saw David and picked David because he saw the heart, then I need to make that same effort and trust that he'll give me insight into the heart. And I always, because, so sometimes your kids do something, you go, wow, was that rebellion or was that just misbehavior? Was that just childish irresponsibility, which is, they're going to be irresponsible as kids. Was that childish irresponsibility or was that rebellion? And I always felt like, if in doubt, assume it was childish irresponsibility. Because if it's rebellion, it will come back again. And eventually it will continue to grow to a point to where this is rebellion. And so
that's really profound, because a rebellious heart it'll continue to grow, right?
Yeah, exactly. Until it's confronted, until it's defeated, until it's beaten.
Man, that's a good one, because that is a challenge with me that, like, sometimes I get frustrated with Elise and I have to remind myself, she just doesn't know, right?
Right.
But there's certain things that I can tell now she knows, and she's, being intentionally deceptive. And I'm like, okay, it's time to attack it. But early on I would be like, oh, she knows. I'm like, the kid doesn't know. She's 6,
Yeah. I remember Karis one time was frustrated and she was telling me, Dad, I tell her again and again and again, and I just don't understand why she doesn't remember or obey. Is she in rebellion? I said, no, it's probably just because she's 2 years old. That's probably her big sin right now. She's 2, give her some time, But eventually, and again, if you'll give the default to give them the benefit of the doubt, it will eventually manifest itself if it's rebellion. And if it's just childish irresponsibility, then it'll go on. Again, that's not to say there may not be consequences for misbehavior.
Man, that's interesting, because we're talking about parenting, but that could really apply across the board in leadership. Anytime you're leading people, there's an element of parenting to it.
Oh, life is parenting.
Yeah. So the idea that with our employees, sometimes, do you assume ignorance or malevolence? Always go with assume they just didn't know.
Yeah.
But if you see the repeated behavior, then it definitely needs to be addressed, right? But that's an important thing when leading people too, because I often go, well, they knew that was going to cause this, and maybe they didn't know it was going to cause, or they didn't know in the bigger picture of the whole structure what their behavior here is actually causing to the whole structure. And so assume the best, which You've always done that. You always did that with me. You assumed the best until I proved.
Sometimes, not necessarily with you, but multiple times.
Yeah. Well, with me, I'm generally good seed, right? So
it's those other two.
But in leadership, like you have that too. Where I say, I'm like, Dad, that person is going to stab you in the back, and then like a year later they do, and you're like, wow, and I'm like, I told you. But
yeah. Well, I guess I would rather think the best and be wrong than think the worst and be right or be wrong. I'd rather think the best. It keeps me happy until the knife goes in. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't to you, does it?
That's not, you'll never convince me that that's right.
Okay.
But anyway.
This worked for me for 70 years. I don't think I'm going to change.
Apparently you didn't root out that evil part of my heart that assumes people are going to do the bad thing, right? So,
I guess not.
Okay, so back on topic.
Okay, what was the topic?
So the topic is the idea of looking at the heart. So how can you tell if a kid's, like, I've been questioning this because I'm like, okay, I was a super sensitive kid to conviction and the spirit and stuff like I was. Okay, I'm not wrong about that.
No.
Because Emily's like, Joël, you were a weird kid. You were like a 45-year-old man when you were like 8. She's like, you took everything so seriously and you had this huge like weight of the world on your shoulders. And so I see Elise and I'm like, she's so flippant about everything. And she's like, okay, whatever. And it's very concerning to me. And I've gone to you multiple times and I've said, Dad, I'm concerned. And you're like, Joël, don't worry. Her heart's in the right place. Just from your observation, you spend a lot of time with her.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? Specifically, let's talk about Elise. Because she doesn't like to talk about heavy stuff too long.
Yeah.
If we talk about things that are too heavy for too long, she's like jumps off and she's like, I want to get some new candy, or I saw this thing on TV the other day. And I'm like, hey, we're talking about serious things and she can't handle that long.
Yeah.
But you're like, don't worry about that. What do you see let's use her specifically. And I oftentimes, I'm like, I want to pray, right? And she doesn't like it when I pray. She wants to pray.
Yeah.
She doesn't like when I read the Bible to her. She wants to read the Bible. And that's like, I want her to sit and listen to it, but I'm like, I'm having to learn to work with her personality type. And my natural bent is, that's rebellion in her heart, but it's not. You're saying.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, she wants to pray. That's a pretty good sign. Not really.
No, I have to pray for us. I know it's dumb. It sounds dumb now that I say it. But anyway,
I know what you're thinking of. But I had the same thing with you guys.
Really?
We never had. I knew these families that they had family devotions. And we tried that.
We did have them. We'd read through Proverbs like month after month.
3 times we had them.
No, you're remembering that wrong.
Well,
because
when we did homeschooling, yes. Because then it was part of the class.
That's true. When we did homeschooling, it was part of class. Every morning we'd drag our lifeless body into the room.
You guys had to. Yeah, okay. But for other than that, I would try to sit everybody down and we're going to, do a family devotion. And by the end of it, after about 2 or 3 times, I told your mom, I said, okay, we can either have family devotions or we can have peace in the house. Which is it going to be? Because I had the same reaction. It's like, I just always got, pay attention. This is serious. And I finally just gave up. And so you guys, I hate to admit it, but you grew up without a regular family devotion time in your life. Oh. How did you make it?
What's interesting is when I was talking to my father-in-law about this too, and he was like, man, we could never pull it off at our family. He's like, we always had kids with attitude and everybody falling asleep. And all of his kids serving the Lord ferociously. They're awesome, amazing people. So it's like, if you're discouraged that you can't get family devotions done, you got 2 families that are a testament to the fact that. But really, if you're watching, keeping an eye on their heart, right? Guard your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the issues of life. And a kid can't do that for themselves. But if you're helping your child guard their heart with all diligence, what's flowing from that stream? Is there something that's polluting that stream? And if you're paying attention to that, I think that's the core issue.
Right. And there's another reason that you want to focus more on the heart than on the outside, because what you focus on is what the kid's going to put the attention on. Like if you're always telling them, oh, you're such a pretty little girl. What does that tell them? It's important that I be pretty, instead of focusing on the character, oh, you're so faithful. Oh, you're so diligent. Oh, you're so patient. Oh, you're so kind. You're so loving. You're so considerate of others. Those kind of things are the things we want to focus on, because they're going to focus on what we focus on. And if you focus on the outward behavior, then all you're going to be doing is creating little Pharisees who are nice looking whited sepulchres on the outside, whited tomb is what Jesus said, but inside you're full of dead men's bones. And the Pharisees looked good on the outside, but he said, inside your heart is rotten and wicked. And the same thing, if we focus on the outside, our kids are going to think that's what's the most important. And so they're going to come up looking like a nice whited tomb.
Yeah.
But inside have the rottenness. So focus on the inside. And Jesus said, if you can tell he was a real man, because in washing dishes, he said, if you'll just clean the inside, the outside of the cup's clean. That's my philosophy on cups. Just clean the inside. By then, the outside's clean. But what he was saying is, if you'll take care of the inside, get that heart right, the outside will take care of itself.
That's interesting that they go towards what's applauded, because I noticed the other day, Elise got her report card. And I don't really care about grades. I think grades are dumb. But anyway.
As a school board member, that's...
Oh yeah. I'm not speaking as a school board member now, right? But man, when I'm always like, what's the first, I'm like, how's she doing Bible memorization? Because Bible memorization is one of the things. And she knows that now. So like, I don't care if she got an F in math. I'm like, she'll figure that out. But the Bible thing, the grass will fade, the flowers will wither, but the words of the Lord will live on forever, right? That's a verse from Isaiah. And she knows that. I say it to her all the time. I harp on her. And she's like, I know, Dad, the grass will fade, the flowers will wither. But she's always like, she goes, I know this will make Dad happy, and she'll show me, right? Or she'll like, if she's done something that's like not really the right thing, but I don't really care about it, she'll like quickly jump to the thing. She'll be like, but Dad, I said my Bible memory verse with no mistakes. I'm like, yes. So, and Emily's like, don't you think we should be worried about some of her grades? I'm like, whatever, that stuff will work itself out. She's not going to get into Harvard probably, but I don't care. But that's interesting, because she goes towards what she knows I value.
Yeah. Kids do, because there's a natural built within them a desire to please those that are authorities over them, and so that is the nature of most.
So here's a question, because you're not naturally intuitive. You just kind of deal with what you see. So if you're not naturally intuitive, how do you, based on what you see, or is it something the Lord has to give you insight on, look at the nature, the state of your kid's heart?
I mean, I know it may sound too ethereal to be real practical, but I do believe God will give you insight into it. And again, if in doubt, give them grace. Just assume that they don't know what's going on, because if it is indeed rebellion, it will keep growing until it's very noticeable, it's very obvious that it's rebellion. At that point in time, you can attack it.
Call it in.
Good.
Thanks for listening. Please consider sharing this with your friends on the platform of your choice. For more from Joël Malm, visit joelmalm.com. For more from Rick Malm, visit rickmalm.com. Our podcast music was produced by Alex Burleson.